Toby, thanks so much for your time. You're going to be around for this afternoon, right?
Yeah.
So feel free to come up to him, ask him some questions, give him a big hug. And we have to move on to the next panel so that you guys can be fed for lunch. The next panel is about creative dialogue. Soft power is not often used as a term, yet the power of culture is undeniable as it allows for storytelling and idea sharing from the obvious to the subtle. Creativity is a key tool for igniting, sharing, and establishing ideas, ideals, and starting initiatives and movements that have global impact. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our moderator for this panel, Ekua Yankah. Currently art organizer with 15 years experience working at the UN, including UNESCO in Paris. Put your paws together and make some noise. Ekua.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this very generous introduction. So we're going to change things up, and we're going to not sit on the chair because we want to be closer to you. And I would also like to ask all of the young people under the age of 25 to come closer, because I think this is about finding solutions. If you feel like you're 25, you can also come closer. So really, young people, please come to the front, because this is not going to be a panel about us being the experts about how we will solve things, but about you asking us how we can support you in doing the work that needs to be done. So please come. This is going to be all about you. Please come up. And there's a wonderful panel here that I will not introduce because we're going to change things up. I would like to have
These iconic class.
3 volunteers, young people under the age of 25. You can pick one of the panelists and you'll have a 3-minute conversation, and then you will introduce the panelists to us. Actually, we need 4 because then you can also introduce me. So can I please get some volunteers? Okay, who would you like to have a conversation with? Choose.
Anybody, I don't care.
So you can speak to Rami, so you guys are going to have a conversation. And then this young man, you'll speak to Guta. Yes. I need one more.
Your name?
And we speak now? Start now?
Yes, you start your conversation now. You speak
right,
with
Debbie. Hi.
And then
Okay,
I need
what's your
one
name?
more person who I'm
Okay.
going to have a conversation with.
What's your interest? What
And
are you doing?
everybody here, so turn to somebody that you don't know yet and have a
Okay.
conversation and introduce yourselves to each other.
Oh,
Because
okay.
there's just as much wisdom in the audience as there is on the panel. Okay, we have 1 more minute and then we'll get started. So if you haven't switched over, maybe you can switch over and get to know your colleague. Okay, so I hope that you've met somebody new and that you've discovered something that you didn't know before. So we will now start with this session, if you don't mind. So let's get started. I hope you met your neighbors, you made some new contacts, and I'm going to hand over to Marina. She's going to introduce me, and then we'll go down the panel.
Okay, so Ekua is a really incredible woman that her parents are from Ghana, but she was born and raised in Germany and have lived and done a lot of stuff around the world on climate and diplomacy with the UN. And yes, I'm happy that she's here. The universe brought her here to moderate this panel, and I'm excited to meet the other panelists.
Okay, and you can actually now hand over to your
Perfect. So, hi everyone. I'm going to introduce Debbie, which does something really cool, which is when we think about who has the power to do both good and evil, it tends to be humans who come to us firstly. And then a lot of times we as humans need something that like kind of takes us into our souls and really reflect upon things and looks at the world through a different way. And so what she does is, or what she has done for most of her life has really been that, exposing humans to art through a variety of art programs, exhibitions, commercial art fair.
Magazines, blah, blah.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And through that, and now even more being retired, she really does connect people in art. So both worlds overlap, and kind of it helps bringing people a little bit out of their little boxes and really connecting across cultures and everything a little bit. I don't know.
Okay.
Think that's-
Thank you. Thank you, Katerina.
Thank you for your work.
All right.
You introduced.
You didn't introduce your person. You okay? So Katerina is a very special person to me. I just met her, but she's touched me a little bit. She's a medical student. She wants to become a doctor. She'd like to go into surgery. But really what she wants to do is she wants to go out into the world and maybe work with Doctors Without Borders, into places where they really need medical help and medical assistance. And I think it's really something very admirable. I'm actually kind of touched that she wanted to talk to me. So this is Katerina. So thank you, Katerina.
Good afternoon, everyone. Well, she's Guta. She's from Torres Vedras. It's a city to the north of Portugal, well known for the carnivals. Also, she lives in Lisbon. She's such an artistic person. She studied music and design, and she also is a technical person. She studied biology and hospitality management. So she also has founded two foundations. And then I asked her, like, what's something that motivates you? And she said that she's pretty well connected with the nature and with this world, and it's something that every day she feels driven when she wakes up. And in 25 years, she wants to connect the culture with a sustainable background and make these things not just like an spectator, but also more like a active player in the sustainable environment. So I think that's all.
That's good.
So on my side is sitting Carlos. Carlos is from Ecuador, and he studied management, right? And is actually now working at EDP on renewable energies and innovation sector. So he's very much aware of the importance of energy and renewable energies for our planet. And concerning the future, Carlos told me that he wants to be more engaged, connecting with more people, expand his territories, and to be more helpful to our world. That's it. Carlos.
All right, I'm going to introduce Rami. Yeah, he's from Lebanon. He's 38 years old, and he moved here 8 years ago. When he grew up, he got into the oil and gas sector inside Lebanon, and was really involved in, the big industry that it is there. And then at one point, around 2012, Rami realized that it wasn't the right thing to do, and especially concerning sustainability, he was going in the wrong direction. So he moved here, and has since been working with real estate and learning how to build homes and properties with sustainable materials and in a much more sustainable way. And he especially finds that when we can connect with nature and involve that in our properties, it's very, very powerful. Yeah.
Thank you, Carl. That was a good. You have good memory. So Carl is 16 years old. He moved here 2 years ago from California. He loves basketball, so we have friends in common. And when you have friends in common, you also understand that they have values in common. Carl is a vegan, and he's plant-based diet. He finds it hard, but he's committed to it, and he takes it as a challenge. He would like to see other people also eating less meat and moving more into that direction. And knowing about those values, it's that generation, they have they have a way of feeling, of being in touch with everything around them, with being in touch with their emotions. Also, you'd realize that parenting also plays a big role in that, in passing on the knowledge and allowing people to, and allow this future generation to be who they want to be. And I asked him, what do you want to be when, like, go in university? He said, I still don't know. And I think that's a beautiful answer, because this is where it drives the curiosity is. When you know, it means that it might have been preconditioned in you, and you might have, it's beautiful at this stage when you say you don't know. Because I remember in my 20s, I didn't know anything. I was 38, I still don't know. So when you don't know, you have the urge to be curious. And when you're curious, you evolve, you meet, you understand. So that's a good way forward. So nice to meet you, Cal.
Thank you so much. So please stay on the stage, young people, because, and sorry, I have to introduce Marina, who is my counterpart. She's 19, she's from Brazil and studying at Nova. So what we're going to do now is, this whole discussion about sustainability was about, you know, how do we create the future for the next generation? So we are going to be sort of the resource people. And it's the young people that are going to ask us questions and hold us accountable for what we, as industry leaders, designers, founders of foundations, business leaders, what we need to do for them in order for this reality to really come to fruition. So young people, please think about your questions. I think the ones that are on the stage now, since you've already spoken with the panelists, if you have a question that you'd like to direct to Debbie, to Guta, or to Rami, you can start, and then we'll take questions from other young people in the audience.
What a responsibility. I think that my question would be somehow transversal to the three of you, but something that I often hear is that a lot of the young people that are kind of asking for politicians, industry leaders overall to take action is that we could perhaps, or some of us are old enough, even though still young, to take that action ourselves. So what would be a skill or something that you feel like you learned later on in life that if you had developed a little bit earlier would have kind of be a shift point in the way you perceive the world and in the way you shaped your job to something that's actually good for societies and it's helping improving societies in a way. I don't know if that's very, I made it very clear.
I think that it's not a question of age. You know, it's a question of there are some elements that we need to have as constants during our lives. So courage is one of them. And also to be curious but very realistic when it comes to look to what surrounds you. So you really need to be aware. You cannot pretend that you are not aware as much as we are. So you need to be really tuned with what is happening. Then you need to be brave, of course, but you need to do much more. You need to work to produce solutions. So I never separated the world into young people and older people, never in my life. So I have this natural feeling of non-time. So for me, the past, the present, and the future are exactly the same, and ages as well. So I never had to face this thing about working with young people or with old people. For me, it's pretty much the same. The big thing here is we know that something is really wrong. It's not a question of asking to politicians to provide solutions. That's not our times. So we need to take action. And I think that the combination of energies coming from different cultures, different stages of life is more than ready to happen. You know, what we need to do now is really to use the tools that we have been developing during the last, I would say, century. So we know how to run the technology side. We are amazingly powerful in terms of producing culture. So I'm coming from culture. What we are proposing with Terra Foundation is to It's something that was decided by UNESCO in 2010, when UNESCO changed the definition of sustainability. Instead of having 3 pillars, so economy, social impact, and environment, they added culture to one of the pillars. So what we are proposing is that we cannot forget culture when we talk about saving the world and changing what is happening. So I would say that this is a very easy thing to be understood by the young generation, because you are producing culture each and every day and consuming culture as well. So culture is the possibility for us to connect, to engage, and to make things change very rapidly. So my advice, I hate advices as well, but my word of challenge would say to stay connected, be active, don't wait for answers, they will not be provided, as we know, so we know that, and use the tools that we have. Design is an amazing tool. I was listening to our previous lecturer talking about so many solutions that are being discussed by so many important people in terms of making some change towards climate change. We have hundreds, millions of designers that are ready to produce that sort of answers. We have millions of artists, of poets, of musicians that are able to join us to produce answers. So it's a question really to put together this huge amount of knowledge that we already have, this huge amount of knowledge on the past that we have already. Never forget the past, of course, never forget the past. And to be brave and courageous and to have action. I mean, that's it.
Oh, I mean, I would totally agree with you. I mean, I was thinking of those same words. Be curious, make connections. But the next thing I would say also is take risks and don't be afraid to fail, because it's really important to do that. To have an idea, to follow it through, and yes, if you fail, it's just the next step to being successful. I think in terms of an idea you might have or something you may want to change or whatever, it's okay to fail. And I think that that's the lesson that you learn as you get older. It is a lesson you learn as you get older. So, but I totally agree with you. It's like the art world, the cultural world. It makes immense changes in people's lives, all across the board, in all countries, in everywhere you go. And getting involved in that sector it's a wonderful place to be and a wonderful place to live. Look, we just heard from a filmmaker. I mean, the world. Look what they're doing. Look how they're responding and talking to all of us. It's a very, very powerful tool. Anyway, that's all I have to add. Brandon?
Thank you, ladies, for the beautiful input. I'm going to add on it. Since we're in Portugal and we're also speaking here with the youth of Portugal, my advice is go explore. There's so much happening here in the backyard that connects you to nature, that makes you fall in love with nature. Because when you feel nature and you're one with nature, you're going to protect it. So my advice, go to the Azores. It's the most beautiful place on earth. And it's one of the most sustainable places in the world. It got the sustainability certification, and that's an achievement. When you go there, you see how the locals, they have built those beautiful islands, how they have protected the landscape, how they have did terracing, how they have avoided water erosion. Most of all, go and observe the whales. Just like Toby loves elephants, I love whales. So go observe the whale migration. Go out, see the whales, see the dolphins. It's just, I haven't seen anyone who's seen whales and dolphins and not smiling, not being connected to those animals. Go to the north of Portugal. There are wild horses running around and there's wolves trying to hunt them. Go to the Costa Vincentina, you see the cigogne, the storks, you see them nesting on massive cliffs that are straight in the ocean, and they're battling all the massive water coming from the Atlantic. So go explore, because exploration is, we're made for it. We evolved from it. So explore, always ask the question why, be curious. And now we have so much tools that give you straight away answers, like AI can give you an answer straight away. Like, we cut the grass. Why does the grass give the smell? It's a defensive mechanism to attract birds to eat the insects, because there's beautiful stories everywhere. So once you ask the why and you get the answer, you get another why. So be curious, explore, and travel with a purpose. Traveling is not especially through planes, is not the best way. But when you travel and you want to make an impact, and that travel has a purpose except just of tourism or eating in a restaurant and so on, you're actually capable of change and spreading it and making it contagious. Thank you.
Do you want me to ask a question?
Yeah, if you want, I can ask you first. So we have 3 different backgrounds. I would like to ask, what are the synergies that you dream with between your background and sustainability in 5 years, 10 years, or what you want to create? What kind of synergy you want to create between your background and sustainability?
My background. No, the field that I've been working with was mainly with designers, architects, contemporary creativity, and musicians. So that's my thing. And very different, because design, it's about common objects, it's about the clothes we wear, so it's everywhere. Architecture is the impact of the building, so it's another kind of impact, as we know. And then art is everywhere. Music is even more than everywhere. We are specially designed, our brain is specially designed to perceive music in a different way than other sorts of inputs. So I would say that the big challenge that we have is how to connect again. I think that we are still not understanding the real value of culture to provide solutions to our world. We are still missing that. In Europe, that's a clear, we don't see it. The European Commission, even with the European Bauhaus program, they are far from understanding the value and the importance of culture for the sustainable development. So for me, my ambition, and that's the goal of Terra Foundation, it's really to prove that if we use culture and if we put culture at the service of society, we can produce serious solutions to our world. And that's the combination that I would like to see. Culture, my work is all based on combining culture with economy and with sustainability as well, but basically culture and economy. I truly believe that those two combined can be extremely powerful. Of course, we have technology, we have all the other layers, but economy in a way is the driver of our society, unfortunately, but it is. And culture is the root of our society. So we need to establish this link, and we need to make it very efficient. So Terra Foundation is about that, with this center on looking at the planet Earth, how can we call designers and artists to produce solutions, and looking to situations like gender inequalities, like wars like Ukraine, and think about how can we provide answers to that solutions as well. So it's very to put these two dimensions together.
It was about synergies.
Yeah.
I think it's important to start making steps, no matter how big the step is. Just always go with the trend forward. One synergy I like to create is through my artistic side. So I have my engineering side and I have my artistic side. And I like to capture aerial photography, drone photography, and go hunt fractals and naturally occurring geometry. And I have I take photos in which when you look at them, it actually calms you down. So we have a device that measures the alpha waves in the brain. And when you put this photo of nature, of a top photo of a canopy in the tropical rainforest, or of a very calm blue lagoon, and you breathe, we actually measure the data that when you're stressed, it's actually calming you down. So there's healing properties to nature all around us. And if I can contribute slightly by some way or the other, so in driving the synergy, is just take steps forward. As long as you're moving forward, give yourself a pat, you're doing progress. And
that's sacred geometry.
Sacred geometry.
Oh. That's sacred geometry.
Yes.
We are working on it.
Let's speak after.
Are you ready with your question?
For sure.
Otherwise, I'll jump in.
I love it.
All right. So my question is actually specific to Remy, um, because I think it's really interesting that you worked in oil and gas, especially in Lebanon, because it is like so important to their.
Qatar, yeah.
Okay, Qatar. Still, the Middle East super important to their economy, and so I'm kind of just wondering, how do you think countries like that kind of should proceed in the future? Because if you are still culturally connected to Lebanon, I mean, you understand like the importance of oil and gas to their economy. How do you think they should proceed? Because I think that's really difficult, especially when you still rely on that, as some countries do, to support your people.
Thank you, Kat. Now, Lebanon, we don't actually have oil and gas, but I worked in Qatar, in Oman, in Abu Dhabi, in all this area. And as a humanity, there are different places in the world that need to evolve. So I don't like the term developed, underdeveloped world, but there are places that are more modern and have better technologies. And those countries should pave the way for upcoming countries to use existing technologies. For example, it's time for many places in Europe, in the US, in different places in Asia, they have strong economies. It's time for them to stop depending on oil and gas and move into other sources of energies. Because there are places in Africa, in India, in different places, they're going to transition sometimes to fossil fuel. You cannot expect a lot of those countries to directly jump to nuclear or to directly jump into something more renewable. This is why it's important for the people and the countries who can move, it's time to move on, to allow other countries to grow, to prosper, and to reach everyone to reach at the stage where we want to. So I think what you're saying is also very political, and there should be like policies that changing. But I think when we understand that there are other places in the world that want to grow and want to grow in a healthy way, and different sectors, they might have to use fossil fuel. So it's important for a lot of the contributors, especially China and the USA, to just start moving out of those sectors.
Can I just say something? I mean, it's interesting that you brought that up. Wait, do I have to turn something? Hello? Oh, it's interesting that you brought that up. How are they moving forward? I mean, the Middle Eastern countries are indeed trying to set up a better economy for themselves, not just reliant on on oil. We've seen it already. They're putting a lot of money into tourism, not only in their own countries but everywhere around the world. And the cultural scene in the Middle East is just exploded over the last 10 years. In Dubai and Abu Dhabi and Oman. So I think that they're making an effort. Obviously, culture is a very big part of it, to move forward and to, I mean, it's controversial, but it's,
I would say it's very
controversial. So say something.
It's very controversial what they are doing.
Of course.
I would say.
Of course it is. But it's interesting to observe it and to ask the question why, which is what you said.
Because they are buying brands. They are following the same system that we had in the previous century. They are buying brands, big cultural brands, because of the image. So it's a very easy way of putting makeup. You know, it's not culture. For me, it's not culture.
This is why I'm opening up the conversation.
Absolutely.
It's something to talk about. I don't know. You lived in Qatar and Oman.
Right.
So. And also sports. Sports is the other. It's the same thing.
Right, but I think they're arguing that it's their right.
Of course.
I think a lot of the times, like with what he said, countries that are developing are arguing that it's their right to be able to develop, as you could say, unsustainably, because that's what the first world countries now have done to get to their position.
But that's the wrong conclusion, right? I would say.
From my side, to give my input on that, Usually the world is governed, especially there, by free economies. So as long as there's demand, there's going to be supply. And I think, and this was shown in the war of Russia and Ukraine. Germany has taken gas from Russia much more during the war than before the war. So as long as we stop asking, there's stop demand for fossil fuels, the supply is gonna dry and things are gonna move. So it's as long as you limit the demand or you change the demand, there's not gonna be supply, and this is how you're going to move ahead. But instead of, okay, we want a better world, but give us your fossil fuels, and it doesn't work this way.
Thank you. No, I mean, that's super interesting because, you know, culture is also political. But I think what we were really trying to create here is to hear the voices of young people. How can you hold us accountable for you creating this world where there's not 3 meters ocean level rise? So are there any young people here in the audience who have a burning question? Because we have about 8 minutes before we close the session. Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Like we saw this week, there's a huge rage to these young people that question the methods that our society is having. How do you think that we can bring down the rage that we saw in the traffic and a lot of... not the rage, not our rage, the rage that we saw from the drivers, from the, you know.
Does everyone know what we're talking about here?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I do. It's the manifestation. All the people in the streets blocking the roads because of climate change and doing. Yeah, they were, and the rage was there. It was seriously rage for a country as Portugal. So it's not like in France or something like that, but it is. I think that rage is necessary, of course. Rage is absolutely necessary. We need to feel mad about things that are really not well. For me, so it's okay to show your ideas, and if you want to express them in a more visible way, it's also okay for me. So no problem with that. But for me, the big thing, it's not about expression, my sense of being mad. It's about how can I provide an answer to what I'm complaining of. You know, I've never been, so since I built experimental design when I was 33, so I was not that young, I was never about fighting, but always about building. And my way of building is my way of fighting. So what I would love to see from my young people here in Portugal, which I do appreciate all the energy and the way they speak and organize to express their anger, it's start to build. Don't wait for someone to build for you. It's the same thing. Building is a way of fighting. I don't need to destroy to prove that I have a solution. I can build my solution. And the beauty of the 21st century is that we work in network. We are not alone anymore. So I'm connected with someone in Asia, someone in Africa. I'm connected with everyone that feels and thinks the same way I do. This is real. This is the first time that really happens in our species' life. This is really real. I can connect. So someone was talking about collective individualism. It's that sort of new structure that really goes to be inspired on nature, because you can find that in fungi, you can find that in many organic and natural structures doing that. So that is for me the answer. It's yes, fight, yes, resist, but through proposing solutions. That would be my call.
Super quick. Yeah, just the idea of rage though is really interesting to me, because I think. Sorry, but the idea is that like. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Right. Um, well, just what I kind of want to say is like, for people like us, especially if you're under 25, I think where the idea of rage and like protesting, especially, uh, yeah, protesting and stopping traffic or whatever, that comes from is the idea that we don't get the same opportunities in the same future, if the world continues to develop as it is. And that's why I think places like this are really important, and conferences like this are really important, because it's allowing us to say our opinions without the rage, without the blocking the streets, without stopping traffic. Yeah. So thank you, I guess. I just think that's kind of our opinion.
That's amazing, Cal. So we're going to close. Okay, so we have 2 more comments, and then we'll close. So,
Yeah, it's really quick. I'm from Brazil, and I started my activism because I had the privilege to have like climate education and environmental education since I was a child, and I think that like this rage from other people that don't understand why we are doing this is because they still like don't understand why like they don't understand the stage that we are, and like the if business as usual continues, we literally won't have a future. And I don't agree like 100% in the way they express the rage. I was not and like the closing the road, but I embrace and I welcome all the forms of expressing this rage and expressing this anger, because I have so much anger inside me, and like I'm so afraid of like everything that will happen. So I embrace and I welcome all the ways of expressing this, as well as I don't agree 100% of the ways they are doing this, but I express my rage in other ways, and I think we are all welcome in this circle. And what I would say is that like this is happening, and I agree, like we need to build, and like our AO fighting is building and is proposing solutions, but we don't have this like these conferences are amazing. I was also in New York Climate Week, and I have the privilege of like going into spaces and talking with people from governments and from business, but we still don't have a secure space and a secure spot in the decision-making spaces. And with the youth and indigenous people and people that are already leading the solutions, that are already like understand the current situation that we don't have the space guaranteed. So we don't they don't listen to us, and they don't act on the solutions that we are proposing. So like I think we need to embrace all the rage and all the anger until they act, because like the science is clear, youth is clear, we have the solutions, we have everything, but we still don't see them like implemented in the papers. I think what I would add is just like welcome all the anger until we see them acting on what we are like screaming for years right now, and for centuries if we consider indigenous knowledge and ancestors.
Thank you, Marina. Okay, we're going to close after this comment.
Hi, again, my name is Nicolas. Thank you for all of the speakers. It was amazing to hear young and not young voices. I have a lot of questions. It's excellent to get out of places like this with a lot of questions, because there are no true answers, and we're looking for them, but it's how it goes. It's in a process, right? And this is part of the process. The thing is, we're running out of time, and things are getting pretty critical, so we need to really think about what are we building. If we are designers, architects, urbanists making the immaterial, we have to really think about what we're making. And it's my comment's an invitation for that. This is an excellent place to set grounds for the next things we're gonna build, and I think that's great. Thank you for making this, everyone, extreme.
Thank you. So we're going to close, but before we close, I'll hand over to, what was your name? Katarina.
Perfect. It's just a quick add up to everything that was said, because I feel like we're very often kind of falling into a fallacy, which is there are a lot of places nowadays for young people to express their opinions, especially when we're talking about decision making. Most countries, most local councils, most whatever have places for young people to express themselves. COPs do have youth delegates, but what I feel like is missing is that we're giving young people the microphone to tell and to speak their truth, but a lot of times the system is down and they're speaking up with their microphone and no one is listening, because it's very normal that we're all gathered here, but actually from everyone that is here, how many people have the power to take these ideas home and actually implement them? And who really should we be inviting to be listening to all of these truths? And it's basically about that, about not only giving young people the microphone, but turning the volume on and listening to what we're saying, because there's some things that we might know about life.
You're absolutely right. So I think I'm going to be very provocative here for, as we close, concrete steps. Us as people, like as the panelists and moderators, you can come up to us and ask us specific questions, or come and volunteer, or come and shadow. So I will make the first pledge. If you're interested in community building and in independent art institutions, if you want to shadow me for a day, or come and work with me at Hangar, find me after we close the session. And I would like the other panelists also to make a pledge.
I just want to pledge that if anyone wants to come to talk to me about working in the arts, or a career in the arts, or anything about projects that are going on that are sustainable, that artists are doing, I'm available. So call me.
For me, it's also easy. So I'm starting Terra Foundation after 50 years of experimental design. And Terra Foundation is my project for the next 25 years, I think, I hope. At least my granddaughters, they will, and yours, they will follow it. It's a collaborative platform. You can find it online. It's all about what we have been talking here, about culture in the center, providing answers to a planet that is failing because of us, and a species that it's also failing because of us. So it's very complex. But so we are focused on small projects and big projects. We are focused on projects that we are going to produce here in Portugal, and we are going to produce abroad. So again, no frontiers. And I would love to welcome you, to listen from you. Our main projects are really going to be on the architecture, design, art, but looking into the environmental issues and climate change. We need to think that velocity, it's one of our things this century, and we cannot stay still. So we are here, just go online, terrafoundation.pt, and we are there, waiting for you.
I would say three things, because stay true to yourself. And I made a pledge for myself 2 weeks ago. There's a fire in me, and that fire, I need to always keep it alive. And to keep it alive, I saw it's based on three components. To be true to myself, not to put other people's priorities in front of my priorities. So if I'm true to nature, if I want to be true to the cause of climate change, I have to be true to stand up to those principles. Two is to embrace the purpose, to wake up every day having a purpose and having a path forward. And that path and that purpose could definitely be involved with nature. And three is stay close to family and community, because being close to the community and family is a healthy way of loving nature, of getting a lot of the ancient wisdom that's out there. So those three components together will bring that fire inside of you, just like it did with me. Thank you.